Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode with me, Gizella K. This is Grizzly True Crime, and today we have a very special guest. As you can see, I've got on screen special guest Gavin Fish joining us, talking about the Ellen Greenberg case. So I'm going to bring you up in a moment. I just want to say, if you know nothing about this case, I have a playlist for you linked in the description box. I have a shorter video for you to catch up real quick, especially on 1.5 speed or so. And I'd really urge you to check it out because this case is pretty botched. To think that it's been ruled a suicide when she was stabbed 20 times, including 10 in the back of her head and neck, is just unbelievable. So please do sign the petition. All the links, the GoFundMe, the petition, everything is in the description box for you to check out. And the mods also do share some of those links throughout the stream. So thank you so much, mods. Welcome. Welcome to all the patrons, all the members, and everyone. I really appreciate that you guys are keeping the momentum going in this case. So welcome to Gavin Fish.
Hello. Glad to
It's
be
so
here.
nice to have you here on Grizzly True Crime. Oh my word. I know a lot of us Grizzlies have watched your channel since the Gabby Petito case. You do such excellent work with all your, we love documents over here, your document deep dives and your timelines and everything. So
Thank you.
I'm sure a lot of people know about you. Yes. Sleeper Agent says, Gavin is awesome. He got me into this case.
Nice.
I'm sure many people did. You've pretty much been the main go-to channel for the Ellen Greenberg case, and you're very close to the family as well, right?
I've become pretty close because of my coverage of it. We never met before I start. I think I probably did 3 or 4 episodes before I ever met them.
Okay. Let me quickly show everyone your channel if I can, because so they can see what on earth you do, because it's so good. But while I get that, tell everyone who you are, where you're from, and what you do on your channel.
Wow. Yeah, so I'm Gavin. Hello, everybody. I have a YouTube channel called Gavin Fish True Crime. You can just search me on YouTube and you'll find me. And that's exactly what it looks like. I tend to do deeper dives into cases that the cases that kind of speak to me are the ones where not only has something horrible happened to a victim, but something horrible continues to happen to their family or to their loved ones after the fact. And Ellen Greenberg is it's the poster child for that kind of case, right? The botched investigation, the obvious to me abuses of power behind the scenes. These are the kinds of cases that really speak to me.
Yes. And I mean, you do such a good, thorough, methodical job. I mean, the work you do behind the scenes must obviously be so much more than the videos that you're putting out there, right?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of time. I interview a lot of people. I really love documentation. If you go to my website, you'll see that I'm very much into publishing. I love transparency in law enforcement, and so
Yes.
documentation is very important to me, and so I publish everything that the families will allow me to publish. In Ellen's case, there was a lot of stuff that was public record already because of the lawsuits that they had filed. But then that's kind of where I started, right? Get to know the case, organize the case or the case file so that I can understand it. I can do my investigations into it and then try to dig more and more out. And that's what I love to do.
Yes, and I mean, you've also invested in some of these documents as well, because not all documents, as you guys know, are free. And I
Yeah.
can't believe, like, when I saw this, I'm like, oh my word, look at these documents. Because here we also love documents, but the amount of documents that you got, oh my word.
Well, I have my patrons to thank for funding that sort of thing. The very first dump of documents that I purchased from the court here, well, out in Philadelphia, I think that cost almost $600 that first round, right? And I never would have been able to afford to do that without people supporting me on Patreon, $3 at a time. That's how I can get my hands on those documents. People helping me do that.
Exactly. And are you continuing to do that? Are you still
Oh
looking
yes.
at cases?
The
Okay.
last document dump that I got is on the serial killer case of Todd Colehep in South Carolina. That was I should I like purposefully keep my mess out of view so that you can't see, but I've got a giant bin of documents and CDs and DVDs and stuff just chock full of that, thousands and thousands and thousands of pages. So yeah, I continue to do that. And my next round of videos, I've taken a hiatus from YouTube. I just really needed a break. I had some personal things happening in my life. I just really needed a break to
Hmm.
address those things. And yeah, the next round of videos that I'll be doing is on Todd Colehep and on his victims.
Okay, I'm sure everyone will be very excited to see it.
And I'll
You guys, I
continue
see
on
you
Ellen
saying,
as well. Yeah.
okay, I'm turning my mic down a little bit, you guys. They say your voice is so soothing. In comparison, I'm a bit loud. They're like, gee, you're a little loud. So I hope it's better now, you guys. Um, so what drew you to Ellen's case? I know you've kind of said it already, but what drew you to the case and when and how long have you been working on it?
I don't remember exactly when. It's been well over a year, I'd say. What happened was I was working on a case in Buffalo, New York. The victim's name is Amanda Winkowski. It's also just a frightening case. And I got a comment on YouTube that said, "Hey Gavin, if you're interested in the Amanda Winkowski case, you should check out the Ellen Greenberg case." And when I got that, and I get those kinds of things all the time, I'm sure you two do too. We all
Hmm.
get case suggestions. Well, I went and I found a couple of articles, and there wasn't a well, there was some. She'd been on like or her parents had been on a national TV show, the Dr. Oz show, and they had been on local news and so forth. But there wasn't a lot of substance out there, just characterizations of the case. And if there's anything that drives me crazy, it's when the media doesn't actually get you access to the documents that they're characterizing, because you don't know if they're fairly characterizing the document or not, right? And they do it all
True.
the time. And in my full-time job is as a reporter, and so I'm guilty of doing that all the time. But I try really hard to give my readers access to the stuff that I have access to. Anyway, I couldn't find much on it, but when I read that there was an active court battle going on, I went directly to the courts to see what I could get. And yeah, so it all started with somebody saying you should check out this case.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. Good on that person.
Yeah,
Is there any way you can turn your mic up a little bit?
yeah, yeah. How
Just
is
a
that? Is
tad?
that any better?
Some people say it's a
Does
little
that
hard to
sound
hear. Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. Let's check, guys. Sound check. We
Sound
do lots of
check.
mic
One,
check.
two.
Yeah, mic check, sound check, everyone. Have 1, 2.
That sound better?
Okay. Yes. So, and as you went through all those documents, I mean, what
Well,
are the
Ellen
red
could be
flags?
anybody's sister or anybody's daughter. That's the thing.
That's true as well.
That's what spoke to me most is, let's see, Ellen was 27 when she died in 2011. I can't do the math that quickly in my head, but she's roughly my age. But because she is forever 27, because she died at age 27, and being a father of three girls, Kimberly and I have 5 children. We have 3 girls. She just kind of like, from the paternal side of me, I just couldn't let it go. She could be anybody's daughter. She could be anybody's sister. So I just kind of got hooked. And as it's almost unfair to the victim, but you're digging into every little piece of their life, and it starts to feel like you know them on intimate's not the right word, but it's on a very, very close level,
Yeah.
right? On a very,
Yes.
I mean, you get to know everything about them. And yeah, I just couldn't let it go.
Yes. I mean, and it really sad because it's a case of victim blaming from what I can see. It's the worst case of victim blaming, like, oh, she did it to herself. I mean, how? How?
Oh, yeah. I got I think you've talked about this before, but I made a video in August and I got a very upset letter from an attorney. And he did that in his letter. He even said, he's like, "We trust that the authorities have come to the right conclusion." Well, if you trust that the authorities came to the right conclusion, then you are an idiot because the authorities never investigated. You know, there's just a lot of that, and
Man. Yeah, I
it's
feel like
infuriating.
always we're looking at the victim, we're team Ellen in her case, and we're like, this, it can't be that she did it to herself. Even just if you look at, I mean, those documents you have, if we look through some of those, I'm still working my way through many of them. If we look at that and other experts commenting on it, they're just like, there's no way she could have done this herself. There's post-mortem injuries that make no sense. So it's very sad. I mean, all the parents want as well is please an undetermined manner of death rather than suicide.
They have never once, I don't know if you've noticed this, but they've never once said, so and so killed Ellen, or there's somebody out there who killed our daughter. They've never said anything like that. They've never even come close. Their number one goal is they want their daughter's death to be not ruled a suicide because she obviously didn't commit suicide. And that has been their number one goal. If they can knock over that domino, then the rest of them will fall, right? An investigation will follow, and whoever is, well, the likelihood of whomever is responsible for this murder, the likelihood goes up that that person will be caught if an actual investigation is done.
Yes. And do you think there's still hope based on the evidence and the samples that they have that if they do investigate it again, that somebody could be held accountable? Or do you think it
Yes.
would be undetermined forever, case closed?
No, I think that there is strong evidence pointing to the person who's responsible for her death. I think that they could get a conviction for sure. It would all be circumstantial because the crime scene was cleaned, right? So there's not going to be any direct evidence tied to whoever killed her, but I think the circumstantial evidence will pile on enough that they could get a conviction.
Yes. And when you first came across the case, what were some of the obvious red flags that stood out to you to tell you that she did not do this to yourself? So pretend like the audience doesn't know. Some people might not know much about the case. So the fruit bowl for me was it. Like she was making fruit salad and then just randomly just decided to stab herself 20 times. That didn't make sense to me when I first saw it. But for you, what were some of the biggest red flags?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that in two stages. Like before I knew the Greenbergs, and then after I knew the Greenbergs, and they gave me access to things that we've never released. The first part of that is how do you reach around? Ellen was stabbed 20 times. One of those stab wounds was a gash on the top of her head, and then there were basically 9 in the front of her and 10 in the back, something like that, right? And so when I saw the 3D renderings of the direction of the knives and everything into basically what was a 3D model of her body based on autopsy, I was like, well, how does that happen? How does somebody reach around their head and stab themselves in the back of the head to the point that they're dead? And in reading the autopsy, you know that one of those knife wounds went into her brain. So how did she do that? The other thing I noticed in that autopsy report is that there were 2 different description types of knife wounds, right? So there was a serrated knife and then there was a smooth knife, and the only knife that they found was a serrated knife. So I'm like, well, were there 2 knives, and where is that second knife? Compound that with how do you do that to the back of your head? And I'm constantly asking myself what is possible versus what is probable. It may be possible. I am married to perhaps the most flexible woman when it comes to that, right? And so I asked my wife to help me, figure that out. She's very, very flexible and very strong. And we couldn't figure it out. So that was the first red flag for me, is the knife wounds.
Yeah, like how is it possible? Yes. And this is your wife, right? This is the video you did.
That's Kimberly in our little entryway. So
yes.
We did that video, and and actually one of the beautiful things about YouTube is that people who watch it have said, well, what about, what if she were like leaning down and she did it from the top? So there are other ways that we could test this. And I haven't done it on camera, but I have followed up with some of the comments that people have made. Could she have done it another way? I still haven't found a way that she could have done it.
Yes.
As an amateur sleuth, right? I'm not a forensics anything, but I mean, that was red flag number 1. red flag number two, after I got to know Josh and Sandy and Tom and, their lawyers and everything a little bit, they agreed to let me have access to the actual autopsy photos, to actual crime scene photos, to all sorts of extra things, with the agreement that those things would never be made public, that, and without their permission. If they someday say, Gavin, it's time, let's put it out, then I will do that. But without their permission, I haven't. But anyway, I've been able to actually see crime scene photos. I know beyond just a description of what it looked like. I've seen the photos of how it was, how the crime scene was set up. There are a couple things that Tom talked about when he talked to you a couple days ago. The blood flow on her face is anti-gravity blood. It doesn't work with the way physics works. And there's also, with the minimal blood splatter that there's on the ground, there is an area that appears to be wiped up, which I think Dr. Lee mentioned in one of his reports, but it's obviously cleaned. So
Wow. The
that's
staging was quite something. If you guys didn't know, what Gavin's referring to is Ellen had blood on her cheek that was like horizontal, and her body had been propped up. And even just based on the investigation, it seemed like she had been moved. So,
right.
Yes.
Well,
there's that.
and you could, like, if you listen to the 911 call, if you were just to take her fiance's word for it, how he described it to 911, then she didn't match what he described to 911 either. It's so
Yeah, the
obvious.
911 call was very interesting. If you guys know Peter Hyatt, he did a statement analysis on that as well. What was interesting to me about the call was that he says, "Oh my God, she stabbed herself." Whereas, of course, if you go into the apartment and you find your fiance like that, you might say, "Oh my God, someone stabbed her." Like, it was quite a conclusion to make of she stabbed herself already from the get-go. That was pretty
The part
interesting.
that stuck out to me that was odd was he said, "There's a knife in her heart." He didn't say a knife in her chest. He described it as a knife in her heart. And to me, that just was dissonant a little bit. Like, well, who says, who describes a knife wound by the internal organ that it might be piercing that you can't see, right? Like, you should be able to say, you should say naturally, there's a knife in her chest, not there's a knife in her heart. It's just weird. It doesn't prove anything, but it's weird, right?
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Yes. Heaven on earth, you got double G in a different way. Normally, if there's two of me on screen, if I'm showing them one of my own videos, I'm like, double G. Now it's double G a different way. We got Grizzly and we got Gavin. Yes, nice. Thank you so much all for being here. Yes, or was it yesterday? The day before, when I had Tom, the PI, on the show. If you guys didn't see that, check it out. I asked him about the case file. So apparently, the family doesn't have the entire case file, all the information. So you do have, the family has autopsy photos, but what information are they missing?
I think that what they have their hands on is probably just a drop in the bucket of what there is in that police file. And that brings me up to maybe one of my favorite subjects, which is transparency in government. The state of Pennsylvania is the public records laws, or the public records disclosure laws in the state of Pennsylvania. There are two of them. One's called the Right to Know Law. The other's called the Sunshine Law. They're the worst in the nation. They're absolutely the worst in the nation. Most states, I think, I haven't worked a case in all 50 states, but every state that I have worked a case in, which is something like 30, when a criminal investigation is complete, that triggers the public disclosure of those files. So, and there might be like a delay. It might be a year or two or something like that. But there's always okay, this case is closed, therefore it goes in the public records pile if somebody requests it. The state of Pennsylvania is not that way. If there's a file that is a police investigation file, it is exempted from public disclosure forever. It's never not exempted. Now, police could say that it's their prerogative to release it if they want. They could release it, but in the case of Ellen Greenberg, they are not. And what's interesting about this is in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, as all other of the 50 states and territories of the United States, right? Suicide is not a crime. So the investigation of the death of Ellen Greenberg shouldn't even be considered a criminal investigation. It should be a death investigation. But they continue to classify it as a criminal investigation in order to not disclose those records.
That is so interesting in itself that it's a criminal investigation, but yet they say it's a suicide.
Right.
What a clash. I'm trying to clear up what happened with that Dr. Rourke.
Dr. Rourke Adams. Yeah. Okay. So Dr. Rourke Adams is a pathologist. She is highly regarded, very well known. So when you think of people like Cyril Wecht, she is in that strata of pathologists. She's well regarded, and she's a neuropathologist, and so she's very good at the study of the human brain, right? So Dr. Osborne, who was the pathologist, the forensic pathologist who performed the autopsy, claims that he took a piece of Ellen's tissue, which was basically the top of her spinal column, and took it to Dr. Rourke Adams for her opinion on what that tissue sample tells her or should tell her. Now, Dr. Rourke Adams does not work for the city of Philadelphia. She's a private pathologist, and so anytime she does work for anybody, it triggers an invoice. Anyway, so he claimed under oath that he had Dr. Rourke Adams take a look at it in what he called, I think he called that like a sidebar or a sideline, I guess, look at the tissue, and he said that she said that her findings were supportive of his. But when asked if she had an invoice, she's like, no, I've never invoiced that case. Well, is there ever a circumstance where you wouldn't invoice a case? No, I always invoice cases. Do you remember the case? I don't remember the case. So the likelihood of that being the truth, that what Dr. Osborne claims being the truth, to me is very low. I think it was him trying to cover, his hind end on that.
Well, that's what's interesting is because Dr. Rourke is such a prolific doctor to say, okay, Dr. Rourke helped with this and agrees with my findings. And then who could forget Ellen's case? If you ever hear about Ellen Greenberg's case, how could you say, I've never heard of it, or I don't know anything about it? If you've seen the case, you're going to remember it always.
Well, sort of. I mean, I give them the benefit of the doubt. If you look at the statistics, first of all, in the United States, there are only about 400 medical examiners. And a medical examiner is something different than a coroner, right? A coroner is an elected official that conducts death investigations and so forth. But in the Commonwealth, we use a combined system of a coroner and medical examiner system. A medical examiner is usually an MD, sometimes an OD, a DO, but they have medical training and in forensic pathology, and there are really only 400 of them in the entire United States. And if you think about how many deaths happen in the states that need to be investigated by only 400 people, you can imagine that their workload is heavy. I don't remember exactly what it was, but she died on the 26th of January. I think that Dr. Osborne had already by January 26th done like 100 cases that year. So they rely on their notes, they rely on their reports. They have to. You can't remember all of those cases. And to them, she was just another, and I'm sorry to say this is kind of crass because I don't feel this way, but to them, she's just another body that has come into the medical examiner's office that needs an autopsy done. She's the 100th for that one medical examiner, and there were 4 in the office at that time. So they rely on those notes. That documentation needs to be there. And so when Dr. Rourke Adams says no invoice was generated, then I'm calling shenanigans. My BS meter just goes way up.
Yes, that BS meter is climbing. Oh man. So what before we get into some more details, what can we do in case someone has to go or anything like that? Please don't go, guys. Stay here. But if you have to, what can we do to help Ellen's case?
Okay, so Josh and Sandy Greenberg would never say this themselves, but since you asked me, I will say it. Guys, they've put about $500,000 into fighting for their daughter. $500,000. How many, first of all, how many families are able to do that, right? But even if they hadn't been able to do it, they are of such true grit, they would have found a way to do it, right? So I think the number one thing that people can do is go to their GoFundMe and give them a few bucks to help with their legal expenses, because they are in this for the long run. And I think the city of Philadelphia is trying to make it too expensive to them, trying to make it so that it's too long of a fight for them. So if you are able to, let me put it this way. If you were thinking about joining Gavin's Patreon or giving a few bucks to Josh and Sandy, please give it to Josh and Sandy. And raise that money so that they can continue their fight. And then the second thing that you can do is go sign the petition. But the other thing that I was thinking about is this: the case is currently in the Chester County District Attorney's Office. I really just wish their phone would just ring off the hook all the time, so they couldn't get anything else done but work on Ellen Greenberg's case. Don't harass them. Don't be mean or cruel. Don't say terrible things. Just, I wish their phone would ring off the hook with concerned citizens going, please, what are you doing on this case? Can you give us an update on this case? So that they understand just how important of a case it is to the rest of us. I personally know of at least 2 other cases where the lawsuit that is going on that Josh and Sandy brought against the city of Philadelphia will have direct impact on at least 2 cases that I'm currently working on. This case is so important for setting legal precedent in the United States that it has to keep going. So yeah, please donate, please sign the petition. And then if you're up for a civil dialogue with the district attorney's office there in Westchester, give them a call.
I'm just writing that down. Exactly who must they call?
It's the Chester County District Attorney's Office. The district attorney there right now is a woman named Deb Ryan.
Okay.
And so it's an interesting story how she has the case, but that's where the case is now.
Okay. And yeah, like I did ask this to Tom as well, but where does the case stand right now? When are they maybe going to trial? Do you think it's possible, maybe even for this year?
Well, there are 3 things going on at once. So this is a pretty convoluted kind of thing that's going on. But there are 2 court cases. The first is Josh and Sandy are suing the city of Philadelphia and the medical examiner's office, seeking a remedy called mandamus. Mandamus is you're telling the court that this government official or this government office is acting arbitrarily and capriciously. They're not fulfilling their duty, and so you're asking the court to force them to do their duty. And that's what they're seeking in that case. So it's not like they're suing Dr. Osborne for millions of dollars or anything like that, trying to get some type of monetary remedy. They're asking the court, make him do his job. So that's number one. That case right now is at the appellate level because when they're at the trial level, the city of Philadelphia objected on grounds of standing. They argued that Josh and Sandy don't have the standing to even bring this case. And when they made that objection, they were overruled, and then they renewed their objection and asked the judge if they could take it to the appellate court, and the judge granted them that. So that put everything on pause. They took it to the appellate court, and there they argued, do they even have standing, along with a couple of other issues. But that was the main one, at least as far as I can remember. So that's the first thing that's happening. And we should be getting that ruling from the appellate court probably this summer is my guess, but nobody knows. You have no idea when it'll come. But I'm guessing this summer. And but even if that comes in their favor, I think the city of Philadelphia will likely appeal that to the state Supreme Court. So that case probably isn't going anywhere anytime soon. But these are very important legal questions, right? And they have long-standing impact on other cases. The second thing that's happening is Josh and Sandy, through their attorney, filed a lawsuit claiming that, if I remember correctly, it's 4 people in the medical examiner's office conspired to cover up the murder of their daughter. And they're seeking unspecified damages in that one. That's a civil suit where they're saying, you guys hid the fact that our daughter was murdered, and we learned this through the deposition and discovery process in the other case, and so we're bringing this case against these people. So that one is making its way through the very beginning stages of the trial. And then the third thing that's happening is Ms. Ryan in Westchester, in Chester County, PA. The case was referred to her office for investigation. And the reason, basically what happened was this. The case was in the Philadelphia County District Attorney's office. And they had reviewed the case. Certain people within the office had reviewed the case and had come to the conclusion that they agreed with the medical examiner that Ellen killed herself. And then the Greenberg's attorney, who they had hired, ended up getting elected to that office, to the district attorney's office. So that office could no longer keep the file because they had that conflict of interest. And so they referred the case to the, one level up, which is the Attorney General's office. And it stayed in the Attorney General's office for a long time. And the Attorney General's office said, we agree with the district attorney's office. After an exhaustive review, we agree that this is a suicide. However, what we learned was that the Attorney General's office hired into their office the same people who reviewed it from the district attorney's office. So it's like saying, we reviewed our own work and we agree with ourselves that this is a suicide.
I asked Tom that question as well.
Yeah.
He also said that it's like fresh eyes. It's the same eyes, though.
It's the exact same eyes, stale and dry. Yeah.
Oh, man.
And then back in August, the Attorney General of the Commonwealth, a guy named Josh Shapiro, who was running for governor at the time, he now is our governor. I made a video about how I thought he had a conflict of interest, that people within the family of Ellen Greenberg's fiance were close friends of his, and I could show that there was that closeness. And I said in my video, I think he's got a conflict of interest, but at the very least, he's got the appearance of a conflict of interest. And I made that video, and a couple weeks later, he referred the case back out again, saying, he basically said, we agree there's an appearance of conflict of interest. We're not saying there was one. We just agree that there's an appearance, so we're kicking it back. They kicked it back down to the DA's office, who still couldn't keep it, and then the DA's office kicked it to another DA's office. So that's kind of how that happened.
Man, so let me put my disclaimer out there because I don't want to get sued. So you guys, the opinions, we're just asking questions over here.
Yeah.
It's Gavin's opinion now, but we're just asking questions. We all just want to understand what happened to Ellen and how we can help, because it just seems like common sense. She didn't do this to herself.
But again, like Gazelle, this is one of those things where it was a viewer on YouTube who sent me a tip, an anonymous tip through my website, who said, hey, I went to school with Josh Shapiro and Kimby Schwartzman. They've known each other forever. And I got that tip And then, so I went on eBay and I found the yearbook
Oh
from
my.
that school,
Okay.
and I looked it up, and there's Mr. Shapiro as a senior in high school, and they went to the same school at the same time. They knew each other. Then I was able to go to Twitter where they mention each other and call each other friends, and I was able to find pictures of them together. So I felt like it is still my opinion that there is a conflict of interest. I'll put it that way.
That is quite a deep dive. I gotta level up, you guys. Gotta order some yearbooks. Like eBay, get the yearbook.
I couldn't believe
Wow.
that I found it, but yeah, let me show you this. Uh,
Oh
that's
wow. Okay.
that's Governor Shapiro as a senior in high school, and then
Damn.
I won't be able to find it, but yeah, the connection is there in the yearbook.
Interesting. Okay. Allegedly. Allegedly, the connection is
Alleged,
there.
yeah, the connection is the alleged
Allegedly there.
connection is shown in the
Could
yearbook.
be. Yes. Let me quickly answer a question here. Dr. McDreamy, that was in Crime Circus's chat where I'm a moderator. So the playlist is on Crime Circus's channel, okay? And he's got two channels, Crime Circus, Crime Circus Cult. Annette, this is why there's the disclaimer, because I'm not going to say things like this, but let's ask Gavin. Have you read that Ellen's boyfriend's uncle was running for governor of PA and that there are records of him calling the uncle before calling 911? I think that was
Okay,
in some of the documents I saw. Did this happen?
Ellen's uncle did not run for governor. It was Josh Shapiro who ran for governor. And it's not Ellen's boyfriend. Okay, I'm just going to use his name. His name is Sam Goldberg, and Ellen and Sam were living together in Manayunk area of Philadelphia together. Sam Sam has an uncle named James Schwartzman, who is an attorney and a judge in Philadelphia. And this is public record. I'm not. This isn't my opinion. This isn't. This is fact. That's who he is. James Schwartzman's son came in, so Sam Goldberg's cousin is also an attorney in Pennsylvania. They live in the Philadelphia area. Yes, phone records show that prior to calling 911, Sam called and talked with Camion. While he was, after he hung up with Camion, he was making some other calls and missed a couple of calls from his uncle, James Schwartzman. And you can see this on my timeline on my website. And then then he picked up a phone call from James Schwartzman. This is all confirmed by their attorneys in their letter to me, which you can also read on my website. So
Yes, it's all there.
So yeah, that is all undisputed that Sam called Camion. Sam then received a call from Jim Schwartzman prior to calling 911.
Okay, but we don't know what they talked about. Doesn't have to mean anything sinister or anything weird. It could just be asking for advice of what to do, how to get into the apartment, or anything like that, right?
It could be that, I mean, it could be that he was outside saying, "Hey, I really want to get inside." Now, there's other documentation that shows that probably wasn't the case, right? There are other witnesses, but their point in their letter to me was, yes, they talked on the phone, and they were on the phone. This is what the lawyer claimed, that they were on the phone when he discovered Ellen's body. That was their position.
Okay. Then,
In my
tell
opinion,
us.
that's
Yes.
bullcrap. But it's just my opinion.
In your opinion, allegedly. Yes. So tell us about this is an actual picture of the door, right? And
Yeah,
this is how it was damaged on the inside, from the inside of
correct.
the apartment.
Yeah.
And what we know is that Sam Goldberg went down to the gym. He came back up after about half an hour. Couldn't get into the apartment. He sent Ellen a bunch of texts of like, "You better have an excuse," and "What the hell? Why can't I get in?" And then he kicked in the door. Now you've done some
So,
experiments around this, right?
yeah, but my correction to that is that we know that he went to the gym. Yes. We know that he went back up to the apartment. Yes. We don't know. We know that he sent her texts. We know that he sent her an email. We know that he called her. We know all those things. But we can't say for certain that he kicked down the door and found
Oh,
Ellen dead in the apartment. We cannot say that for sure. But
okay.
that is what the police report says he said. Like, we don't
Okay.
have a statement from Sam. We only have a report from an investigator who said he said that, right? So I did do an experiment on this because this one was another one of the red flags that when I saw this picture, I thought, okay, well, these are those hotel style bar locks, right? And we see them in the movies being broken down a lot. We've all experienced using them anytime you stay in a hotel or something. The swing side of it is still fastened. It appears perfectly to the door jamb. It doesn't look like it's been moved at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so this little swing part of it, right? The bar part of it, this part is still attached to the door. It's loose, like screws have been pulled out and it's been tweaked, but it's loose. I wanted to know, well, when I saw that picture, I thought, that's still locked. That looks locked to me. Like, the door wouldn't open, and if it was just damaged that much, it's not quite there, right? It has to break off. And so I wanted to test that theory. And so I went out to my local hardware store and I bought one, and I attached it to my office door. Now, it's not a perfect scientific experiment. Like, I'm not saying that it is. I think their door jamb was probably metal, and my door jamb is 120-year-old, like maple, right? So it's very different. But in order for me to get into my office, when I put my shoulder to the door, it completely broke off, and that's how I got in. Oh. So to me, that photo shows that the story that at least was told through that investigator who said Sam said, right, is incorrect. It's not. I don't think that it's possible.
Because this is another video. I'm going to link all the videos that I'm referring to today in my description box afterwards when I do the timestamps for all of you. So here we saw the earlier reenactment that Gavin and his wife did, just trying to figure out if Ellen could have done that to herself in any way with all the different angles and everything. And this, you did a deep dive on that lock, as you just said, and you tested everything here.
Yeah. That maple door jamb is still damaged, by the way. I haven't fixed it. I kind of want to frame the piece of wood that came flying off.
Oh, man. So, but I really appreciate that you do these reenactments and deep dives just to try to figure out, well, is it possible? What could have happened?
Yeah. It's the question is always what is possible versus what is probable. In that case, I don't even think what was claimed to have happened could have happened. I think it's not only do I think it's unlikely, I think it's impossible.
And do you think it's in any way possible that... Okay, so firstly, disclaimer, I'm not blaming anyone. I'm asking a question. Do you think it's in any way possible that anyone else could have been hired or entered the apartment or picked up a key card or anything like that?
Yes, sure. I mean, I think that if I were investigating the case, my number one suspect would be the fiance. It just makes sense that that's where you start.
Which is normally how it goes, right? It's normally how police would be like, okay, look at the partner, look who was last or first founder. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, listen to what he has to say, kind of weigh that with the evidence that you're looking at. Kind of, if your eyebrow raises, I don't really believe that, then maybe you continue down in a different line of questioning. But is it possible that somebody else was in there? Absolutely. Yeah, totally possible.
Okay. I know you've asked people as well to look at, because you've got an entire playlist just of the surveillance footage. Mm-hmm. And since I published that shorter video and I mentioned your surveillance footage and everyone to look at it, I've had a few emails about this. I don't know if you've ever received this, but about this moment here from camera 3, okay? And this is at 5:31:01, where it looks like Sam dropped something. Have you ever seen that moment?
Yes. Yeah, people have brought it up to me as well.
Right? I'm sure you got emailed. So this is not, there's no sound to this. I just quickly want to show them what I'm talking about. So right here at 5:31:24, so we're just waiting a few more seconds. I'm just going to show just in case we could think outside the box, and not that we're trying to on my channel. I'm not trying to solve the case or anything. I just want to present the facts and do as best as I can for people to spread the word, raise awareness. Okay, so here we go. 4 seconds. Sam's going to come in. That is the fiance of Ellen. Then he appears to drop something here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. Do you
Looks
know?
like
Have you? Yeah.
it could
What do
be
you
a
think it
key
is?
card, or it could be a ticket, or a receipt, or a little piece of paper. It could be a lot of things. Yeah.
Right. But did you see that someone tries to pick it up later?
Yes. I refer to him as Khaki Pants Man. Yeah.
South Africa would say khaki, khaki pants man. Khaki pants man is
Yeah.
right here.
Khaki Pants
Now,
Man.
again, we're not trying to red flag him or blame him or do anything. It's just interesting that here, this is at 6:09:12. This guy comes out of here, which I think is this by the lobby.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know exactly. Okay, so he's coming out the door there. And then if we go back to that one, I'm just asking you, we can manage all these emails all at once right here.
Sure.
At 6:10:12. Wait, we're getting there. 6:10:12. Then that guy who we just saw, khaki pants man, he picks up that piece of paper or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Wait, somewhere here. 6:10:22. Oh, sorry. Let me make the video bigger.
Yeah, so we just saw him. He's in the hallway that we can see up at the top of the screen there.
Okay, is that where he was coming from? I was wondering there. Where was he at that time? Okay, so I can't see the thing on the floor now, though.
Yeah, I think we may have passed it, but basically
Could
what
have.
he does,
Oh, it's Sam now again. Yes.
he comes in, he picks up the thing off the floor. So
Yes.
the idea that I've gotten from the people who've emailed me is that, okay, well, it's a drop. It's like a dead drop, right? Sam wants to get rid of evidence, and so he dead drops it. To me, again, I'm always asking myself, what is possible? What's probable? Okay, is it possible that that's a dead drop in the middle of of an apartment lobby, right at the place where where the elevators are and all the traffic is? That he dropped something on the floor, and then a conspirator came through a moment later and picked it up? Possible, sure, but what's probable? To me, this is a nothing thing. It is a Sam dropped something, didn't know that he dropped something, and then the guy in the khaki, my guess is he's a hotel or an apartment employee. That's my guess. And he saw a scrap of paper on the ground and picked it up. But you know what? But let's do a thought exercise. Let's say I'm wrong. What is? Let's say it's a drop. What are they passing, and what bearing does that have on the case?
That's what I've been trying to think through. I don't know. Like, what would it be? Because it just looks like then later Sam is back in view, and then he follows where that guy went. Now, maybe you know better the apartment. Have you actually been to the apartment building?
I haven't been there yet. I keep meaning to. In fact, there was a reason earlier this week. There was a reason for me to be in Philadelphia, and I passed on it.
Oh man.
I kind of now wish I hadn't. I wish I had gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Getting called for all these interviews.
I do know the layout of the building. That may be
somewhere here. Yeah, here he comes.
Here he comes. He sees that.
He's seeing whatever's on the floor, and then he picks it up. Yes.
Yeah.
He's looking shady. No, he's just looking.
The pants and the dark shirt. To me, he is an employee of the apartment building. That's their uniform. When you'll see later on when the EMTs arrive, you'll see the apartment manager on screen, and she's wearing very similar clothing. So I think that he's just an employee of the apartment building. He was walking by on the other side of that column when you can see him notice. There it is on the ground. I'm just going to pick it up. I think that's what happened.
It seems like
it. But if I'm wrong, what bearing does it have on the case? Would it be a communication of something? Like he jotted down a note and he's passing a note? I just don't buy that, because why would you drop that? Why would you do a dead drop in the most trafficked area of the apartment building?
Yes, where all the cameras are and everything is. And then also, where is he walking towards now? That's the question. Where are they going?
Yeah, so if you're thinking about it from where the camera is looking, there's kind of a jog that goes the other way, and it's kind of an L-shaped area, and it has I don't know what it was then, but currently there's like a little reading area and a library down there, and there's also a desk where a concierge would sit to accept packages and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's the
And
main
also,
lobby of.
and this is where all the cameras are, but in the hallways leading up to the apartments, I mean, Ellen and Sam lived on the 6th floor. There's no cameras in those hallways, right?
There's nothing above the first floor.
Okay. Okay. Also, they don't look like Timberland boots to me. And is that Timberland boot information from I can't remember now where I got that from. Is it from the police reports or who said it?
It is from the police report. The Timberland boot idea came from Philip Hanton, who was the concierge / security guard on
Okay.
duty that night. In the report, it says that he thought that Sam was wearing Timberland boots, and that later on he was wearing something else. But when I looked at the video, I think he was just wearing the same shoes the whole time.
That's what it looks like to me. We're busy the whole time here. We're like who gyms in Timberland boots. Unless he's just doing upper body work real quick, in a gym in the apartment. But I'm like, I don't think this is Timberland boots at all.
Yeah, and that's a
Could
good
be.
illustration of just how, I guess, not reliable human memory is, right? Why
Yeah.
evidence is so important.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Someone had a question here. When channeling the heart, Barbara Joy said, what about the alleged other bruises to Ellen? Do you know how long, like how, you know what I mean? Like how way back they go or not?
So I have a friend who's a medical examiner, and he told me when I showed him the crime scene photos and the autopsy photos, it was the autopsy photos, that that bruising, the oldest bruise was probably about a week on her body. And the newest one was probably, very soon before she died. She had, there's actually one wound on Ellen Greenberg that nobody talks about. It's not nobody. Tom talks about it. The people who know talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But on YouTube and in podcasts, we don't talk about it much because nobody has seen this in the YouTube world, right? So that's why we don't talk about it. It's not that big of a mystery fish. But when an autopsy is done, like we're all adults here, right? So I can talk about kind of gross things, and I'll be as careful as possible. But basically,
show the trigger bunny. Trigger bunny, everyone. We're going to talk about gross things. Yes.
Okay. Think of the human body in an autopsy like a deer for a hunter. The first thing they like hollow out the cavity of the deer, right? So that's pretty much the first thing that happens that I've noticed in an autopsy is they get all of the internal organs out of them. They inspect them, they weigh them, they do all that sort of stuff out of the chest and abdominal cavity. And then they start looking at skeletal structure. Now, our neck is, criminally speaking, the best target on our body, right? It's very weak, lots of blood vessels, our air goes through and everything. That is the place that instinctively we want to protect the most on our body. And so that's usually where they go next. And what they do is they deflect all the muscles up. So they will take the skin and they'll fold it up over your face, and they will look at the strapping of the neck muscles, and then they will take the first layer of that and they will deflect that up, and they will do that until they're all the way down inside the neck. And then they take pictures as they're doing that, right? Well, Ellen has a hemorrhage right on the front of her neck. And there's a bruise on her skin, and there is like a fingernail mark on her skin. But then there's a full-on hemorrhage in the muscly parts of the front of her neck, which indicates to the pathologist who looked at the at the report and the photos, and it certainly indicates to me some type of manual strangulation, and that isn't brought up very much at all. Like I'm, in my opinion, Ellen was attacked quickly. She was grabbed by the neck. It was squeezed while she was being stabbed, and I think it probably happened from the back first.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's
Yeah.
like there is evidence that she was attacked, not that she did that to herself. And there's bruising on her wrists and on her ankles that looks fresh.
Wow.
So
So I'm just thinking of ankles and wrists and on her neck. I wonder if there could have been anyone else
yeah,
there.
it's possible.
You know,
It's certainly
sometimes one would
possible.
speculate that. I haven't seen, of course, the pictures. I don't think I want to. You can't unsee them, right? When you see those
You
pictures,
cannot.
man.
And the sad part of it is, as you go on case after case after case, you become more desensitized to it. It becomes something that you can just look at.
Yes, I've seen one or two, and I'm just like, whoa, look,
Yeah.
we don't want to see that again, right? It's hectic. Kiki Ray says, better late than never. Thank you for continuing to cover this case. Okay, so I know we're an hour. Like, damn, that flew by. It feels like 10 minutes that you've been here.
Yeah.
Been so busy with the info. So, okay, so let me tell everyone where they can find you, just so that they don't miss out. So this is Gavin Fish's channel. It's youtube.com/@GavinFish. And I've linked it in the description box already. I've linked his website as well. And I'll put all the other links to the specific videos that I referred to as well. But you've got two playlists for Ellen's case. One is Ellen Greenberg case surveillance footage. And what would you like people to look for there?
So at this point, it's an exercise of, like, if you want to have a good exercise of just being a citizen detective, taking a look at all of that camera footage to see what you can see, including like Khaki Pants Man and stuff like that.
Yes.
This is a perfect exercise. At the time that I posted it, I was looking for specific people. I was looking for James Schwartzman, Kamian Schwartzman, Mindy Goldberg, and Richard Goldberg, who are Sam Goldberg's parents. I am of the opinion, again, opinion here, that we found Kamian on the video. His lawyer says you did not find Kamian on the video. So
Okay.
I'm of the opinion that we did. But if you want to just have a really good exercise of detective work, that's a good playlist to take a look at.
Okay, and then there's this other playlist, The Murder of Ellen Greenberg, in case you guys haven't seen this playlist too. I mean, Gavin, as you can tell, if you've been here for the whole episode, he is the ultimate deep diver. Orders your books and everything. Okay. So go and check it out.
Obsessive
It's really
is probably a better word for it.
obsessive deep diver, but it's really good. All his coverage. So go check it out. He's also had Ellen's parents on a few times to talk about the case too. So go check that out. And then your website is gavinfish.com. So let me just go to cases so they can see. Yes, cases. Okay. So we've got Anna Walsh. That's also quite a recent one. So I'm sure you're still working on that a little bit.
Little
Shankilla Robinson. There's many cases. Ramina Shah.
Yeah.
And if you just keep on going, this is where I found you with Gabby Petito's case. I'm like, oh my word, someone made a timeline. Yes. To refer to it. It was very, very helpful. I don't know if you know how helpful all your stuff is. It really is very helpful and needed in the true crime community.
Thank you.
Definitely. So go and have a look here if you guys are interested in reading more about these cases. And in all of them, here's Ellen Greenberg's one. There's a lot. There's timelines and documents and videos and everything for you to
Audio
binge watch.
recordings. Yeah.
All of that. Yes, you get all the audio recordings as well and things like that. Calls like the 911 call Gavin's got as well. So check that out. And then the link for the petition, the GoFundMe and everything I've got in the description box. There's little yellow hearts next to them too. So go and sign the petition if you haven't yet. Let's try to get this to 200,000. And then I'm sure they want 300,000 or 5. So just keep signing because it does help. The more, the better. Make sure you fill in your first name, your last name, and your email address and click the link in your inbox as well. And so what can people expect from you in the upcoming months, weeks? Anything we can look out for? You may have been interviewed by interesting places recently.
You'll see me on different things coming up in the next little while. I've done some stuff for some network TV stuff. I've done stuff for some streaming stuff. I'll be a guest on a couple of podcasts out there. Just if you're a true crime aficionado, you'll probably go, "Oh, there's that Gavin guy that was on Grizzly True Crime." You'll see me out there. And then on YouTube, I'll be coming back with a long series on Todd Colehep, the serial killer down there in South Carolina. And then I'll be doing a series on Julia Davis as well. Of course, with the Ellen Greenberg case, every time there is something that happens in the case, I'll come back. I'll do an update with what I've found.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. So everyone, go subscribe over there, because even though you've taken a break, you'll be back. There'll be more videos and you don't want to miss out. So subscribe and hit the bell so that you don't miss out on those. Rochelle Pronzo says, thank you, Gavin, for your great insight into this case. Appreciate it very much.
My pleasure.
And let me not miss that one question, which was, sorry, Becky, I had it up for a second. Does the family, if I remember correctly, the question was, is the family aware of any domestic abuse that went on in the relationship in the weeks or months leading up to Ellen's death?
I think the answer is, at the time, no, they were not aware of that. But the evidence, I can't speak for Josh and Sandy, but based on what they've told me, I believe that they think there was domestic violence happening there. I personally believe there was domestic violence happening in Sam and Ellen's home. She had bruises. Like, I won't wax on and on about this, but my wife is such a good avatar for Ellen. They're the same height, they're the same weight, they're just the same build. Everything is the same. The only difference, of course, is that Kimberly and I are now older, right? But my wife is somebody who bruises easily, and I joke about it. Like, if she bumps her hip on a counter or a cupboard as she's walking by, I will joke, like, you better not die this week, because people will think that I'm beating you. You know, like, I know it's a little dark to be joking with your spouse, but like I'm sensitive to bruising, I guess, with my spouse is what I'm saying. And I think the argument about all of the bruising on Ellen's body was because she was active or, whatever. But they're not indicative, at least in my experience, of the bruising that happens on your body if you're an active person. They are bruises that are indicative of strikes, of, blunt force strikes. So I personally believe that Ellen was being physically abused. I believe that she was being emotionally and mentally abused. And she was crying out for help, and the people that she was crying to weren't equipped to know what was going on. They were doing their best. They found her a therapist, but they didn't know. And so you can't blame them for their actions, because they were working in Josh and Sandy were working in their daughter's best interest. They wanted to protect her line of work. They wanted to protect her happiness, and they got her a therapist to talk to. She only got to talk to that therapist twice or I think it was twice, may have been 3 times, but I think it was twice. And they didn't know, but and they've never looked at the autopsy photos, by the way. They've never looked at the crime scene photos. And I can understand not wanting to see your daughter in that situation.
Yes.
But as they've been described to them, including by people like me and Tom, I think they've probably become convinced that Ellen was experiencing physical abuse.
Which, if true, would be so sad. I mean, with Gabby as well. With Gabby Petito, we saw, when she's like, sometimes my OCD is really bad, and she seemed like really anxious and all, but at the time, no one knew that was going on.
Yeah. And she probably couldn't process that it was going on, right? That's the thing about abuse. Like, with Gabby Petito, she probably wasn't connecting the dots that I am a victim of domestic abuse or abuse by my partner. And I think Ellen was in the same situation. She was anxious. She was blaming work being so difficult and consuming and overwhelming. But when you talk to the people that she worked with and you look at her work product when she died, the T's were crossed, the I's were dotted, everything was perfect, right? She couldn't process in her mind, in my opinion, what the source of the problem was, and she was probably externalizing it out to other things.
Yes, that's so sad. And I mean, a lot of times victims in domestic abuse relationships are quiet because they're also embarrassed to tell anyone. Sure. Like, it's really embarrassing to open up and be like, okay, this is what's happening. So yes, you guys, if you're wondering where I'm getting that info,
and listen, if anybody's watching this or anybody in the future that's watching this, you're experiencing that. It's something that I've never experienced, so I can't be empathetic to you, but I can be sympathetic to you. I mean, I have a mom, I have 2 sisters, I have 3 daughters. There are lots of women that I care about in my life, and women tend to be, at higher rates of domestic abuse. They are victims of domestic abuse at higher rates, I should say. I can understand how you might feel embarrassed, or you might feel, I guess, reticent to share what's going on or getting out of there. But there's so many of us that just are cheerleaders for you. We admire you. We love you. We want the best for you. There is somebody that you know that will help. And if you don't know somebody that you think that you can trust, there are services that you can call. They're easy to find. Please reach out. Please find them. Because what happened to Ellen was completely, it didn't have to happen, right? It could have been avoided if she would have been able to seek that shelter from what was going on in her life. That's my opinion.
Yes, and if you guys want to hear more about domestic abuse, stalking, harassment, and coercive control, I'd recommend Crime Analyst, which is Laura Richard. She's been on the show before. Like, wow. I'm binge listening to all her podcasts. If you guys don't know who she is, you can check her out on some of the episodes that I've done. Oh man, that's really informative, and that's where I also learned, people can be really embarrassed if they go through this.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you know the signal for DV awareness? It's like the hand signal that people can do.
Yep.
Yeah, like that. That's also very helpful. So it's actually saved lives. I saw someone on TikTok the other day say that they saw someone do this and they were like, whoa, okay. Call the bartender, and they intervened and helped out and probably saved that girl's life.
There are people all around you. Like, I don't know how to say this properly, but there are people who are not afraid of the fight or the confrontation. And there are those of us who thrive on it. We enjoy it. So, like, if you're in a crowded room of several people, the likelihood that somebody will stand up and be on your side is high. So, yeah, please reach out for help.
That's a very good point. Very good closing message as well. Anything else you want to say or plug or?
Nope, that's all I got. But thank you for having me. I've enjoyed this.
Yes, thank you so much. We're honored to have you, and I'm going to direct everyone to your videos, to your channel, to your website. I hope they'll support you on Patreon as well. Gavin's also got a Patreon. I didn't mention that. All the links will be in the description box for you. Thank you, Copper Horse, for sharing that. It's very, very helpful. It can save lives. And to any of you who've been through domestic violence, I'm so sorry. And yes, just know this is a safe space where we can all analyze these crimes together and hopefully learn from them as well to better protect ourselves. Well, thank you so much. Grizzlies, I'll see you again soon. Maybe we'll have Gavin back sometime soon again.
Yeah, I'd be happy
to. Happy, what is it, Thursday today? I'm not even know what it, happy Thursday, you guys. It's almost Friday for me. So happy Thursday, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye.
Good night.